Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Business Innovators Radio. I'm your host, Clint Evans, and my special guest today is Lisa Akoury-Ross, founder of SDP Publishing Solutions. How are you doing today, Lisa?
Hi, Clint. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm doing well.
Well, I am looking forward to some of the things you're going to share about the publishing industry. And to give you a little background on Lisa, she began her career in the book production business over 25 years ago, serving the largest publishers in the world in the medical, education, and trade industries. Starting with unedited manuscripts, her family business provided full publishing services for publishers such as Pearson Education, Houghton Mifflin, Aspen Law Business, and others. Lisa then launched SDP Publishing Solutions to help authors independently publish their work professionally and cost-effectively. This includes literary agency representation to worldwide marketing and international copyrights. Authors get editorial and writing coaching services, custom book cover design and layout, which is extremely important, and global marketing and publicity for both print and ebook platforms. Lisa, well, I'm looking forward to this. If you're ready, let's dig right into this.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
All right, now I've given a background and context for a little bit about SDP Publishing, but let's take a quick 2 minutes. I'd like to hear in your words a little bit about your background and why you got into the work you do now.
Okay, great. Well, let's see. As you mentioned, I have been in the publishing industry since I was very young, growing up in a family business that served these large traditional publishers, mostly in the business, medical, and education fields. So my father started what was a typesetting business over 40 years ago, which evolved into offering these full production services for these publishers. The editor at the publishing company would hand us over the manuscript and introduce us to the author. We would work very closely with the author in editorial help, permissions, custom book cover design and layout, just as you mentioned. Basically, we did all the work up until it went to press. And about 14, 15 years ago, some of these prominent authors who really made a name for themselves would approach our family business, and they would ask us if we would help them independently publish their own work for future manuscripts. They did not need the traditional publishing companies to help them any longer. They had a large following, a solid platform and brand, and a sizable readership. So they were really primed to actually independently publish. So at the time, my family business, declined that opportunity for one reason or another. But it was all in the back of my mind that, I could certainly help them because I saw the need for people to want to, publish on their own. And about 10 years ago, my husband picked up the newspaper, and he said to me, Lisa, there's all kinds of articles about online self-publishing businesses. Isn't this what you do? Isn't this what you've been doing for the last, 20-something years?
Now, that was like a physical newspaper?
Yes, looked at the newspaper.
They still have those?
Yep. That's very funny.
Okay.
Everything is online now, but think about 10, 12 years ago, yes, we did still get the newspaper.
That was before the Washington Post had to sell out to Bezos and Amazon. Gotcha.
Oh, that's great. That's funny. So anyway, I immediately started researching all of these online publishers, and I was horrified to learn what they were doing to new authors who are unfamiliar with the industry. And, many just don't know what they don't know. They were providing substandard services, not only in editorial, but book cover design. And, they set them up so that they could never really compete in, the very competitive market space publishing is today. So, I launched SDP Publishing Solutions, LLC, formerly known as Sweet Dreams Publishing. So SDP actually stands for Sweet Dreams Publishing. Right. I launched it in 2009 because of my experience. I could do this blindfolded, Clint, honestly. I've been, doing this for so long, and I know what managers need. So because of my experience working with, physicians, professionals, business people, as soon as I announced my business, I was immediately invited to join a physician's writing seminar. And on that fateful day, though, I was the only independent publisher there, and I left there with 6 titles that one day and authors that are still publishing with me today. So not only do I have some wonderful clients, authors, but they are friends for life. And this is one of the reasons why I started this business, because I am serving a need to help authors publish professionally, publish the right way. And nothing gives me greater joy than really teaching them the ropes and helping them achieve their goal of publishing.
Friends for life. Sounded like I heard your voice perk up there as well. So that's pretty fantastic. If you can have a business that does that, it's very gratifying.
Yes, it is.
All right, Lisa, let's get into our first topic for this interview. Describe for me what's different about the SDP Publishing Solutions process and how that process helps authors, whether they be first time or experienced, to have that super high quality book.
I'm glad you asked that question, Clint. What makes SDP unique is the high level of professional services we provide. So I have a staff of editors, for example, that I carefully vet out, and I ensure that they have been in the business for at least 10 years, have worked with a traditional publisher, or have published traditionally on their own.
So you have those NSA contacts to do the full background checks on these guys.
That's correct. And we have a whole series of tests and interviews and reference checks and things like that. And I also make sure that, the personality is there, right? So, and it's very important to match up the author with the right editor. And that's one of the things that I take pride with, So I will meet an author. I'll take a look at their manuscript, what their goals are for the book, given the subject matter and the writing style. I properly match up the right editor for them.
That is key.
Yes, it absolutely is. And it's very important to develop a close relationship.
I imagine
so
you wouldn't want a dry professor editor editing a romance novel.
Right. That is an absolute no-no. And I would never put a nonfiction business editor on a fiction title, right? And even fiction runs the gamut of genre, right? So you have the YA, romance or the vampire series. I have editors that specialize in that genre.
Yeah, young adult, if you're not familiar with what YA means in the industry.
Right, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct. Young adult. Also adult fiction. And, given the subject matter, and some of them have, medical undertones. We have medical thrillers. And I have editors that specialize in medical thrillers, which is very, very helpful. And there is a large difference, by the way, in editorial services, and a lot of people don't realize this. There are, 3 levels of editorial services, and, one is developmental editing, another is copy editing, and the other is proofreading. And, most editors come with, one particular specialization there.
Yes.
So and I always have at least 2 editors on every manuscript. So you have an editor coming in a developmental editing role. So what they'll do is they'll examine the manuscript. We'll make sure that we are writing to the correct target audience. We will define that target audience. They will help an author organize their thoughts, get rid of any redundancy. Make sure the word count, the amount of content we're about to put out is appropriate for the subject matter. They don't, go through any of the, the grammar, they will overlook some of the, some of the grammar in general, because that is left for a copy editor and a proofreader, right? So what we do is we, start with at least 2 rounds of developmental editing, and then we'll hand it off to another third-party professional editor who will catch all those other things, right, that a DE, developmental editor, is not trained to look at. And having several sets of eyes on a manuscript is really, ensures a low, error rate. And I just feel that a lot of new authors don't realize how important it is. And this is one of the things that I really focus on explaining to every author is whatever you do, do not skimp on the editorial help, because good content sells over and above. We have to start with great content, with a defined market, right? So any manuscript is really like a product. And with any product or service, you have to define who the target audience is. And are we reaching that target audience? And we create a product, which would be the content in this case, to attract as many of that target reader as possible. And that's what we like to help authors with.
I got you. Yeah, that sounds like a very thorough and involved process. And one of your points when you were talking about the 3 types of editors and the 3 levels, and even at the developmental level, it usually go through 2 rounds, and then maybe at the copy level, a round or 2, and then the proofreading level, maybe another round or 2. So you're talking between 4 and 6 rounds of edits to get to that high quality, cut out as much fluff as you can, just meaningful. And I heard Tim Ferriss describe this, the difference between a best-selling book, which is one level, and a best-reading book, which is not always aligned there. Some best-selling books are not that good a reads, or could be much better written. So I think your process really irons a lot of that out.
And every book, right before it goes to press, gets a full proofread, just to ensure everything, from manuscript all the way to page layout. And we have one last proofreader read it cover to cover, which really will ensure a great product will be rolled out.
I think I know the answer to this next one, but it'll be good to hear it and see if I was right. How did you come to this specific SDP publishing process? Did you stumble on it, or was there a trigger event where you saw the need and decided to develop? Tell me about how you developed this process.
Well, let's see. As I mentioned earlier, when these online self-publishing companies started popping out, there was indeed a trigger for me. And that was when I witnessed how many authors that had a strong desire to independently publish, but they had no idea how to get started or know who to even trust. So once I launched SDP, I created a top 10 list of questions to ask a publisher before committing to one. It's now available on my website at www.sdppublishing.com. And again, SDP stands for Sweet Dreams Publishing. And it's right on the homepage there. And I find that many authors find this to be a very useful tool when trying to compare apples to apples. It helps them to develop a list of questions so that they can make the right decision in terms of who the right publishing channel is for them. So we also offer a 45-minute complimentary consultation. It's an examination of an author's manuscript, even an outline or an idea for a book. And that option is also available on the homepage on the website.
Gotcha.
And so it's a great way for authors to say, hey, listen, I'm thinking of rolling out this book. What do you think? Do you think, we would capture a good amount of the market space, or do you think there's a need for it? We send a series of questions to every author, and it's a great exercise for every author, and it helps them actually determine if, their idea for a book is it going in the right direction.
Yeah, helps them clarify their thought, and if this is an idea they want to invest the time in and worthwhile based on their goals. So I could see that being very useful. And
and we help.
Go ahead.
Well, we publish all genres, so I wanted to just get that out there that we help authors in nonfiction, adult fiction, YA, young adult, and we also do a lot of children's picture books too. So we can create that 45-minute consultation for just about any subject matter.
Yeah, and that gets into, you talk a little bit about, I think it was the children's books I was seeing some numbers on, where we talk about trends, and there's a lot of misperceptions out in the population that quote, nobody reads anymore, or books don't sell, books are outdated. Tell me a little bit about those trends and maybe even in specific genres, what you see inside the industry.
Well, let's see. In terms of what's selling and what isn't, is that what you're asking?
Are people not reading anymore? Is that a misperception? What is going on with book sales and what's it going to be going forward based on the trends?
Okay. Well, I can tell you from my personal experience, aside from being a publisher, is once the Kindle and Nook, those reader devices came into play, and they're now in every household, and even children have iPads where they can, download a Kindle app, or, if they have the iBook app. My family reads more than ever. And it's because we can get a book downloaded in seconds, right? So, and I find myself, not having time to go to a bookstore or the library, and I do a lot of my reading at night. And if I wanted to try and sort of read a new author, what's great is with ebooks, I can purchase a story, a fiction book for 99 cents. And, I don't feel like I'm wasting my money if I didn't really like the book. There's ways to download a sample. So I read the first, 10, 12 pages, and then I have the choice to purchase. It gives readers really a great opportunity to read a lot more books than they were able to in the past. And, there are some people that still hold the traditional method, or I only like paper in my hand. And that is also true, too. I mean, there is still a need for printed books. It's not just ebook all the way. And we typically offer, publishing packages that offer both a print and an ebook. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and that's some of the stats I'm seeing, that certain genres of fiction, now that the ebooks are out, and especially independent authors, there are actually a larger number of readers and a larger number of book purchases. I haven't looked deep enough to see as a percentage of our population, has it readership gone down in 20 or 30 years, but as the world population continues to grow, the sheer numbers of books being purchased and being read is growing. And the one genre I saw the other day that the actual print books in sales are still expanding at a fairly rapid rate are cookbooks. So recipe type books. Mm-hmm. And of course, in fact, nonfiction business, all that.
Funny story though, before I actually had the gumption, to start my own business, a year prior to when I actually launched the business, I did publish my own cookbook. And it was a great lesson for me, because I said to myself, I am so used to producing 1,000-page book, large manuals, education books. How would I make this affordable for, an individual? Okay, that, how could they afford to self-publish? And what I did was I said, well, I'm going to learn on my own in terms of this section of the market. And I learned all the do's and don'ts, Clint, in terms of whether you should print in color. Is it wise to purchase inventory up front? Should everything be, print on demand? My cookbook is, now I'm Italian and Lebanese, and I grew up with all these old recipes, from my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and parents. And
I was going to ask if it was Boston Cooking Secrets with Lisa.
Oh, that's great. That's a really good name. I should put out a second book.
But you have a real Boston accent, not the terrible one I just did.
Well, I've been doing my best to try to hide the accent, and a lot of times people ask me if I'm from New York too. So,
gotcha. The evil empire? How dare they?
I take them both as a compliment. Someday somebody will say that I have a Texas accent, though, Clint. That's my dream, to move to a warm weather state.
I can help you with that. Come on down.
Okay, you got it. So, so my cookbook is New American Cuisine for Today's Family. It is, quick and easy recipes, how to get a meal on the table in 30 minutes. Growing up as a busy working mother, having 2 kids and a full-time job, I got so sick of making mac and cheese and, peanut butter sandwiches and grilled cheese when the kids were really little. And I missed the homemade meal. So I just started to go back to those old recipes, but I learned how to condense them and separate them for the picky eater. So, and then I got a lot of great feedback on my cookbook. But again, I have learned all the do's and don'ts from it, and this is, I share my expertise with other cookbook authors.
Learn by experience and mistakes. That's the best way, the way that we learn as humans. So, and better to learn from the mistakes of others, as Warren Buffett
Absolutely.
Likes
Absolutely.
to say.
I've been through it all, so I'm happy to share.
Well, let's get into our final topic here, Lisa, and we've talked a little bit, or at least glazed over. There are 3 basic levels in publishing. If we look at it, self-published, and a lot of people, there's a perception out there that they're poorly written books and people don't, there's copy errors or grammar or spelling errors, things don't make sense, and maybe even the formatting is bad, so they didn't have a skilled paid editor or a team to get that in the proper format, and people perceive those as low quality. So there's a bias against those. Then you've got the big 5 publishers, but it's hard to get your book accepted. It can take a long time just to get an acceptance letter, go through a lot of rejections. Then you've got 18 to 24 month process from there before you even see your book on Amazon or bookstore shelves. And during all that time, you still have to build your own tribe and marketing. So there's some question there of what the big 5 provides and who they might be right for. And then, as you said, there's that pocket in between there that your company helps fill with the professional level publishing and presentation for people that don't want to work with the big 5, don't want to wait that long, but they do want a book that's of a writing quality, a reading quality, and a content quality, and a presentation and book cover and everything that you might see on a bookstore shelf. So who would you say, or what type of author would you say it would be worth exploring the big 5 level? And then what other group of authors would you say, hey, it's worth the investment to go more with the professional self-published route?
Okay, that's a very good question. Well, certainly there's no doubt that the industry has changed over the years, okay, where there used to be only one way to publish, and to publish, hopefully successfully, is to go through the big 5, right?
Yep.
And
I think it was the big 6, wasn't it? And they consolidated.
Yeah, yep, absolutely, because there's been so many mergers and acquisitions. But the big houses really stopped taking a chance on new authors. And I will tell you that I find that, let's just say for fiction, unless an author is really examining, what an imprint really is after, there is such a boilerplate system that each imprint uses, okay? And if anything is out of the norm, they usually will reject a new author, okay? And even if a new author gets picked up by traditional means, we call something like you may be in the mid-list hell, okay? So the mid-list hell means you're a new author, and if they do sign you up, they typically will sign you up for, 2 or 3 future books, okay? But they own the rights to all your work, ebook included. And if they don't sell a certain amount by a certain date, you will automatically get into the mid-list, and any profits that you make will go to a better selling author, okay? And then you're sort of stuck. And they put a lot of onus on the author today to have their own marketing plan, okay, pay for their own publicity and things like that. So it's not all roses, just because, a publisher, a traditional publisher is interested in you, it doesn't always mean that it's going to equal success, right?
So
now,
if I heard you correctly, probably a bad route for a first-time author that doesn't have a fan base of 5 or 10,000 engaged subscribers, not just random Twitter followers. And even if you're a second or third time author, you've had a bestseller, you've got something of a tribe. What does the big 5 provide? Because I think there's still a perception that, I get my literary agent, I got my book letter or outline, proposal accepted, I'm ready to go, write the manuscript, do all that. And then once I put the manuscript in the hands of my publisher, whether it's Random House or Penguin or whoever, they're going to take it from there, publish it, spend millions of dollars to market it, and just send me the check.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but then you're going to find too that sometimes that check isn't as lucrative.
I was going to say too, does that even happen? Because I've talked to a number of authors that even if you're a second or third time with your own tribe, the publisher may put some marketing dollars your way, but it's not just hand in the manuscript and then collect the checks in the mailbox.
No, it's not that easy. It's not that simple.
So,
but, you did ask me, though, about, what kind of author really would be best suited for an independent publishing endeavor. And that, I'll tell you,
level, right?
Right, at a professional level.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the professional business speaker, right, or the business coach, or somebody that has really an area of expertise that they want to share. They have, a clientele base, or they have a certain amount of followers. They've already established themselves as an expert, and they know who their target audience is. Right? They just need help getting it on paper. They need help developing it. All my thoughts, does it make one book, or do we, create a series of books? Those are the best kinds of authors that have really, better chance of success doing it on their own. Once they start, doing some pre-marketing, maybe generating some pre-sales. We start with a great marketing platform. Once the book is released, and we have this, launch and, offer some sort of sale, the first couple of days that a book's out. Once you get on the Amazon's top 10 or you hit a best-selling rank and you start generating some professional reviews, why even go to the traditional space? That's success right there. And I do find that often, once you hit a certain number of ranking, within the Amazon ranking space, sometimes these traditional publishers will call you. One of my authors just signed a deal with movie rights too. This is for a fiction title.
Nice.
He was available. His book hit top 10 on Amazon, and there was an editor, in charge of movie rights, or, worked for a subsidiary of NBC Studios, found the book and contacted me. Another author of mine, we just signed a deal in China to translate her book. We did a foreign rights deal, and that's a good source of, income for her. So, there's so many things that you can do today. You don't have to go the traditional route. It's, there's other ways to publish successfully. But again, self-publishing did have a bad term, and in some circles, it still does. But, the word self-publishing, usually connotates, poorly written, or, I do have some authors that used to call and say, my niece took a look at it. She's, she's a high school, studying English, and she said my book is okay, or my wife read it, or all my family members like the book. It doesn't need any editing. We just want to publish it as is.
Mother-in-law took a look at it, and if she says it's okay, it must be because she hates me, right?
So, there still is that segment of the marketplace where I say, okay, well, listen, if you, if that's what you want, then I suggest, you go use some of the online traditional publishers. That's probably best suited for you. But, we work with authors who really want to better their manuscript. Our mantra is really to help authors put their best foot forward in a very competitive marketplace. And we start with good editorial help.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point where you talk about the hope, and the author that got into the Chinese translation, your author that just got contacted by NBC Studios to sell those rights, that picking this path of the professional self-published can lead to these much bigger things that authors want. And they're not just locked into that traditional guarded Big Five only process. So I think there's great trends. There's hope for both paths that you want to take, either professional self-publishing or going the traditional route. and what's best suited for you, like you alluded to earlier in the interview, that they can talk a little bit with you and your team to see which route is best, get some of that advice and in your advisory role, and just have a much better project, and in a lot of ways even decide if this book is worth it or to scrap the idea and think up something else. So
that's right.
Well, Lisa, yeah, this is the point where you can say your final goodbye, mention your website, and I know you already mentioned the top 10 resource. So if you want to give your website one more time, then we'll wrap the interview.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The business name is SDP Publishing Solutions, and the website is sdppublishing.com. And SDP stands for Sweet Dreams Publishing.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for describing a little bit of the process that nobody sees to make a much better quality book and be able to sell more. So keep innovating, and we'll look forward to talking with you again soon.
Oh, thanks so much, Clint. It was great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.